So how long did it take to become successful? So first of all, that book by Malcolm Gladwell is huge. 10,000 hours to become a master at something. And I remember what this takes me back to is being a hooper. Now I was a tomboy. Okay, when I was younger, I grew up in the gym. 8 years old playing in the Nike League. My dad was my coach my whole life. And he always used to say to me, like, you have to apply yourself. You're only going to be as good as you apply yourself, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I learned some fundamental like character building skills at a very young age. And being done with this overnight success, thought process is it boggles my mind, but it's more true now than it's ever been. So my minute is already almost over, and I didn't say anything. It's taken me over 3 years to build the current company that I run today. It has taken me almost 10 years in the real estate business to become as knowledgeable as I am today. And it's taken me a lifetime of working with people to to add to the sum total of the person I have also become today. So I also want to highlight that the average age, since we're all entrepreneurs, of an entrepreneur that has started a successful startup, that start age is 45 years old. So I want to make sure that we add some context here that overnight success is not, it takes a lifetime. So, okay, I'm going to be off my minute and I'll pass it to Patty to go ahead and answer that question.
Well, if you think about 10,000 hours and you divide that by 5 years, it's about 40 hours a week. So they usually say an overnight success usually takes 10 years because you don't care about somebody's success until they're successful. You don't care about the process and you don't care about the journey. You only pay attention to the story when you start seeing the big numbers and the accolades, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't know what it was like for me. You didn't care about who I was when I was sitting on my living room floor with nothing, going through a divorce, and I was sitting in my closet making phone calls. You have no idea what that was like because you don't care. You just care that I do $100 million and I'm one of the top 100 women in the country, right? That's what's attractive to you. If I was the one who was sitting in my room broke and I was making phone calls out of my dark closet and I was wondering how I was going to pay my mortgage, then that would be a whole different story, right? So I think if you take the 10,000 hours and you divide that over 5 years and you understand that that's a 40-hour week, 5 years in a row, then you can understand what that means about the 10,000 hours. It takes time to learn. I remember when I started and had no idea what the word mortgage meant. I had a book the size of an encyclopedia with names and phone numbers, and I had to call them. I didn't understand how a mortgage was attached to a house. I didn't understand that it was a secured loan. I had no idea what the word meant. And it took years for it to click. So I think the idea that 10,000 hours creates the success and the expertise is because you're going to have aha moments because you're in the process of gathering information and you might feel like you don't know what you're doing. That's where imposter syndrome comes from. So you feel this imposter syndrome because you don't know what you're doing, because you're learning as you go. And then as things start to click, it makes sense. And you wake up and it's 5 years later and you've accomplished significant milestones within your career or your goal path. So that's the idea. It's about consistency. The only thing that successful people have figured out that you haven't yet is that they didn't quit. The amount of times that you have to quit and start over, it's like refinancing prematurely. You're restarting the term of your loan. You're restarting the terms of the agreement that you made for yourself every time you quit and start over. The key is don't put the book back on the shelf. Just knock out one page at a time. Wake up 5 years later and realize that you were capable of everything you thought you couldn't do.
So I'm gonna piggyback on Patty. I'm so glad that you broke those numbers down because I think that what that says, and I'm so glad, Kaylana, you said, most successful businesses are people that are 45 years old or older, right? When you put it into context like that, it allows people to give themselves grace. We are on social media all the time. You got the 21-year-old that's in the big mansion. You got the 18-year-old that's showing the $50 million. So you're constantly on this hamster wheel feeling like you have to catch up. We do need to bring the humanness back in humanity. One of my sayings is like delayed gratification to me is one of the most underrated keys to being successful in life is understanding the concept of delayed gratification, right? And it's just completely opposite than what our society, is built around right now. So I'm new in the real estate industry, And I'm constantly beating myself up because I'm like Patty when she started, trying to learn this terminology that for me oftentimes sounds like a foreign language, because I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel. But it is my tribe, it is the people around me that encourage me and remind me, hey, I got 20 years ahead of you. Hey, I've been doing this for 15 years. Like, I am way ahead of you because I have had time. I've had the 10,000 hours. Me coming from the world of radio, breaking it down into a 40-hour week for 5 years, I would say that is actually spot on as far as gaining your level of expertise. But in life, even when you become an expert, even when you become really great at something, to me, one of the things to remember is we have to always remain teachable. And that's what I love about every lady on this show, is that we are very successful in what we do or what we have done, but we are always learning. We are always sharpening our tool belt. We are always reading. We are always wanting to get better. And it's not necessarily from people that are ahead of us. We learn from everybody around us. So that's my 2 cents. I love the numbers and the way you guys broke that down. We have to give ourselves grace.
Yes,
So
yes,
good,
yes.
Jade.
That lateral learning is super important. But what I want to talk about overnight success as far as like in the personal finance space. I could talk about nursing as well because that's really big for me too. But in the personal finance space, like I have a really clickbaity story of paying off $1 million in 3 years. And it seems like, oh my God, like that's really, really fast. But in the trenches of it, nobody wants to really hear about the fact that during that time I went from being a single mom to being in an abusive marriage to going through a tumultuous divorce, all of the ups and downs that I had to go through. And for me, it did not seem overnight, right? It was that just putting one foot in front of the other and just keep on moving, that consistency that Patty talked about. And so when people like see things on social media where they see me have these massive successes in like reels or something, it's because my social media, if you scroll back, it's so old. It's since 2016. I've been putting in the work. I have been sharing my story. I have been saying these things for a long time. And so I think a lot of times, social media is a highlight reel. I did a whole post on that it's not real and that there's a lot of hardship behind the successes that you see. But we only want to live in the light of these people. And we don't understand that in order to get there, there was a huge testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that reminds me of when you see someone's kid on social media and all of a sudden it's their 8th birthday and you're like, shit, you were pregnant just 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where when you see someone and you see the big post, you're like, oh, wow, that happened overnight. Well, no, it didn't. You just didn't care about the post I made at midnight 2 weeks ago when I was crying because I was sick and tired of life, So yeah,
Right.
that's what that reminds me of. Definitely the journey is real.
Yeah, I feel like so many people, because of this viral culture, right? So many people try to do things to go viral, right?
Mhm.
And those are very lightning in a bottle moments. And I think what we have to learn to accept is that the shortcut is really the long way, right? These
Mhm.
very fast ways of doing things, right? They might
Yeah.
get you kind of interim, progress, but the way to actually get it done is to be in the trenches, like you said, Nasima. And so one of the things that I think is super interesting is that when you are really everything that you experience in your life adds to who you become, every experience, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of these skills are transferable. So Jade, you talked about being new in real estate, and you might be learning a whole new world of real estate, but you are not a new businesswoman, right? And so you have learned things that, you've told your testimony and your story publicly, a lot, even on here, about your journey in media and in radio, and all of the things that you went through that you had to learn from that seed have helped you understand your value and what you bring to the table today. And as well as, the brand that you've created in addition to all of those things. So I think, moral of the story when it comes to being an overnight success is, man, and I don't know how we feel. I don't know how the culture feels about Will Smith these days. I haven't been tapped in, but his book is really good. And in the introduction of the book, he talks about how his father made him and his brother build a wall. And it took them what felt like a year to build a brick wall. I don't remember where it's at, outside their house or outside their shop or something. And that they would come home from school every single day. And before they could do anything, they had to contribute to laying these bricks. And that at the end of the year, they looked back and said, oh my gosh, we built an entire wall. But when you're
Wow.
laying the bricks every single day, you don't realize that that
Wow.
is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, goodness, all of the skills, everything that contributes to who you are today. And when you get tired, man, just wake up and say, only focus on laying that brick, and just trust that by the time you get up and you turn around, there will be a wall there built for you.
Which
right?
is
Based
good.
on
It
that
sounds
effort.
like you're like, it's like there's pain in the process, right? It's almost like when you're trying to get a six pack, or when you're trying to, get your body together or whatever, you're going to the gym. It hurts. You have sore muscles. It really is. It is a constant. For me, one of my, and I the reason why I'm not good at celebrating in the moment, but it is because what people's perception of me scares me sometimes. Like, I'll be posting on social media, and tell me if you guys can relate to this. And we'll transition actually into marketing and branding, because I guess because I have built a brand over the years and I'm good at marketing myself, especially for other opportunities. People have this perception when they see certain things, and I'll just use social media, and they'll say, oh, you doing your thing. And I'm thinking to myself, I am struggling, right? And it's not a struggle because we're all blessed, but I'm just saying what people perceive to be
Yeah.
success and what you perceive to be success. So you're constantly fighting this battle against perception and what reality really is. You get what I'm saying? Because in order for us to do what we do well, we have to be consistent in building brands. We have to be good marketers, because that's the world that we live in, right? But it is really scary when people think like, oh, you popping, Think about it, Patty. You brought up the fact that you've been doing this for 21 years. You've done $100 million worth. That's clickbait type headlines. Nasima, for you as well. But Nasima, I saw you put up a post the other day that I absolutely loved. It's like, don't think that I don't still struggle with my finances sometimes. Like, I'm not healed and whole and out of this. But
Right.
people perceive that you got rid of $1 million worth of debt, so now you have to be rolling in the dough. No, you have to continue with those disciplines. Otherwise, we all fall right back into all the things. Am I right? Wrong? I don't know.
Right.
No, you are
Right. And-
right. I think you said something super critical about the pain. And I only want to add this, and of course pass it right back to you, Nasima. I think when the two examples we had was being new in a career, let's talk specifically real estate. The painful process is showing up to an open house 4 times a week, picking up and calling expired listings as if your life depended on it to get an opportunity to go get more listings. If I know a lady who's 62 years old in Oakland, California, who's one of the top listing agents in the market, like one of the top 10 in the entire market. Her husband knows not to walk into her office between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. daily, because that's when she's prospecting. That woman is 62 years old, and I can promise you she's not hurting for a meal. But that discipline is the 10,000 hours we're talking about. So the painful success is, you don't need another class. You don't need another course. You don't need another show. You don't need another book. What you need is to go sit behind closed doors for 4 hours, completely uninterrupted, completely undistracted, and face the painful facts of rejection, and make call after call after call. Call the listing agent and say, can I do an open house for you? If you committed to doing 4 open houses a week for the next 8 months, your business won't grow. Your paycheck won't increase. I'll bet you $10,000 that it will. And then when it comes to debt, if you just take an Excel spreadsheet and you go through your 3 last credit card statements for the last 90 days, if you don't find $5,000 that you wasted and blew without even thinking about it or recognizing it, and sit with that pain, you're not ready to live a debt-free life. You're not ready for financial security. That's the pain Jade's talking about. That's the 10,000 hours. It's sitting with the ugly facts that you don't want to face, that big pile of laundry that you don't want to deal with, and just getting through it. And that's what we mean when we say we continue to go through that struggle, because that process of purification is ongoing. You don't graduate.
Stop yelling at the people, Patty. God damn.
No, we need to be
Needs
yelled at. Because let me
It's
tell
good.
you, oh
So
I
good.
did tell myself I was going to stop talking like that. I'm trying.
no, but it's the
It is, it's
passion, right?
Sunday.
You mean it, you care. There is pain in discipline. Discipline is the hard part. Everybody keeps saying learning the information is the hard part. No, it's the discipline. It's me getting off social media because I thought I was going to scroll for 5 minutes, and next thing I know, it was 3 hours, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like where has the day gone? Yes, the discipline is the hard part. You better pass the plate for Patty. Okay, Patty always picking up an offering on this show, boy.
Man. And then that's for the record, Jay. That's when the TikTok shop got you for sure in those 3 hours. 100%.
That's when and I ain't been back on TikTok since. I bought all that stuff. I'm not yet.
Congratulations.
Because Patty started yelling.
go.
I'm like, I ain't gonna do it anymore.
Right.
You're going to hear my voice now when you go shopping.
Exactly. I'm like, oh God, I gotta pull my credit card statement and start highlighting and see where I wasted.